program, our focus will be on sports perspective in the year 2025 as to look at what to expect in the year 2026. Beyond that, the African Cup of Nations is ongoing in Morocco. It started in 2025 and it's rolling into 2026. So we'll take a look at how the Super Eagles of Nigeria intend to move to the quarterfinal stage of the competition. Beyond that, we see teams who are favorites to move into the quarterfinal stage of the competition. A lot to talk about here on Sports Extraordinary. Don't forget the race in the Premier League in England is getting very hot. Arsenal going into the new year with a 5-point lead. Can Manchester City upstage them? Well, maybe Aston Villa or Sunderland. I'll look on that. Don't forget Chelsea as well has had troubled times just before the end of the year. They have had to part ways with Coach Maresca. Where do Chelsea end from this move? Do they have a new coach as soon as possible? Well, all of these questions will be answered on this edition of Sports Extraordinary. Stay with us. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back. It's Sports Extraordinary, and of course, this weekend our focus is on the 2025 African Cup of Nations, and of course, we look at the perspective of sports, last year and what to expect this year. But for our guest this weekend, we have Mike as well in the house. Mike is still here. Nice to have you, Mike, this weekend.
Thanks for having me on this weekend edition of Sport Extra.
We should be having a couple of guys across on Zoom. Wisdom. Kalu, are you there?
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Happy New Year to you. And of course, we have Coach Kaki with us. Coach, nice to have you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be with you on Sports Extra, and Happy New Year to everyone out there listening to us.
Okay, we'll just start straight away. The main sports event ongoing right now on the continent of Africa is the 2025 African Cup of Nations. Of course, you know it is the the 35th edition of the competition, and we have now moved from the round of the group stages to the round of 16. I'll start with you, Coach. Coach Daniel, you've watched the competition in the last few days that has entered into the quarter-final stage. Can I have your appraisal of the competition from day one as we move into the group games this weekend?
Well, the beauty of the AFCON is, yes, it's for Africa.
What of China? But Coach, I think you have to hold on there. Let's see whether we can establish good contact with you, Coach. We're having a little bit of network issues there, and as soon as we are clear up with Coach, we'll get back to him, getting his view about it. We should be checking. Do we have China Chiro online with us now? China, are you there? Okay. If we don't have China, we will see what the network is like with Wisdom. Wisdom is, of course, a sports analyst joining us from Umuahia. Wisdom, the African Cup of Nations is into the group, is into the round of 16 after matches played at the group stages. Can I have your overview of what you have seen so far in 6 cities in Morocco?
Thank you very much. I think it's been a fantastic outing by any stretch of the imagination. As a football enthusiast, an analyst, a spectator, a pundit, whichever category one belongs, we have seen the finest of football on display across the 24 nations that participated so far in the competition, albeit now narrowed to 16 teams because others who weren't able to match the specific metrics to progress to the next round have been shown packing. In terms of industry, we've seen lots of goals here and there, draws, of course, explaining how competitive African football has become, no longer days where teams are walloped and decimated on the field of play. We've seen fantastic outings from Nigeria and Algeria, the only two teams to have maintained 100% record in the competition. The host nation, Morocco, have equally shown promise. They have been under pressure because they are the host of the competition with an avalanche of talents that apply their trade both in the local league and in Europe. They're expected to go on to challenge for the title. Cameroon, Ivory Coast, in fact the big guns. If we look at the 16 teams that have gotten to the round of 16, you would realize that 11 of them are former champions, which is a testament to a level of consistency in terms of the big wigs in terms of African football. So it's exciting for the number of matches we have seen, and I think the stakes can get higher. As we get into the round of 16, we expect more of industry. Controversy have actually been in short supply, especially from the angle of the referee. The optics have been fine so far, and we expect more of the same when we get to a region of the competition where there is no margin for error.
Okay, thank you very much, Wisdom, for your overview. Wisdom, I think you got the spot on there. Let's see. Do we have contact back with Coach Hakim? Well, I think we're still having a little bit of network issues. We'll have to join Coach Dan Kaki any moment soon. But Mike is here. Mike, looking at the African Cup of Nations, like we already established, some teams have gone home. 24 teams started the competition, and now we only have 16, meaning that about 8 teams have already left Morocco, wherever they were based. But in Morocco, they should have arrived back home now after the conclusion of group games. For me, countries like Gabon, Equatorial Guinea, and Botswana, not getting a win in the course of 3 matches played at the competition. Does that speak well of the level of football across the continent?
Well, I think football is actually evolving. Football is developing right here in Africa. That is what it simply means. For the fact that the likes of Gabon, Equatorial Guinea, and the rest have been, sent packing out of the competition, it simply tells you how active other countries have, of course, evolved over the course of the year. Because even Gabon literally should have come out of their group, but then they were beaten by, of course, Mozambique, which for me was the height of it all, which their government actually said in their own time that it was such a disastrous outing, and that is why the government had to disband, the team out there. So for me, I think for the 8 teams that have been sent packing, I think they just need to go back, try harder again. Literally, most of these 8 teams.
No, not completely, because we know that some teams, they are not already actually 8 that have sent packing. We know some teams that came 3rd place position.
Yeah.
They have moved in.
Yeah. Some came in 3rd place position, but some of them just, of course, maybe you say more like the best losers from some of those, teams that were supposed to go out, but because of the fact that they were the best losers, they were given that, soft landing, and that is why they are still in there. But then, generally, I think some of these teams that have left, not that they did not try their best, it's just that their best weren't good enough.
Okay, the best of the 8 teams weren't good enough, and they are out of the African Cup of Nations ongoing in Morocco. 16 are there at the end of this weekend. In fact, in the next 48 hours after the weekend, we will see which of the teams are remaining, which 8 will remain and move into the quarterfinal stage of the competition. Do we have China back with us? Well, we're still having to establish contact. Coach, are you there? China, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Oh, China, nice to have you. And the focus this weekend is the African Cup of Nations. Beyond that, I think I can take you on maybe 1 or 2 perspectives of sports in the year 2025 and 2026. But first, since we are already on the African Cup of Nations, let's get going. Gabon disbanded. The entire national team has been disbanded. The technical crew, support staff, players have been sent packing by the government of Gabon on the stress that they lost all the 3 of fixtures at the ongoing African Cup of Nations. Somehow, captain of the side, Aubameyang, is been sidetracked from that ban. You are aware that he left Morocco for his club side in France for treatment. But some officials of the Gabonese Football Federation are in quarrel with that because they believe that he is hale and hearty and shouldn't have left the team. But overall, it looks like FIFA hammer is dangling on the head of the Gabonese Football Federation. Will the hammer come down, or it will be somehow left hanging?
Why would FIFA do? No, they didn't do anything wrong. They disbanded the national team, which
government disbanded.
Yes, I mean, it's a national team. They didn't touch a duly elected FA. That's a different matter. If a duly elected FA or federation was disbanded, then FIFA would come in. It's a national team. You can do what you want with your national team. But I thought they wouldn't have been that brazen. What they should have done was simply sack their coach, which everybody does, and start the process of rebuilding by calling up fresh players or not inviting the current players. But see that when an African country says we are disbanded, it sounds so 17 and 80s. It sounds so military. But I don't think there'll be a farmer for that, for disbanding the national team. No, it's a country's prerogative. Who do you want to invite to a national team or not? So I won't join that school of thought that people will hammer them for anything like that.
Okay, quickly, Chada, I think you can answer the next question because we've had 1 or 2 of our analysts on this program give their overview of the Nations Cup that is into the round of 16. So far, so good for you?
Yeah, so far so good. It's the AFCON. When you have so many countries, more countries than normal, you will expect to see, as we say, the boys from the men at the end of this stage. We are expecting Gabon to be knocked out this early. I wasn't. We are expecting Equatorial Guinea to be knocked out this early. I wasn't also. But it happens when maybe you don't prepare right, or maybe you're just not lucky. But now we're in the knockout stage, and it's business. This is the business end of the AFCON. One mistake and you're out. If you blink, you're out. I think the games will get more interesting, more competitive, and more exciting to watch. So I agree, so far so good.
Well, quickly, before I go to wisdom on the next question, China, video assistant referee seems to have been controversial so far as compared to the last Nations Cup where it was excellent.
I agree that the last Nations Cup was excellent, very excellent. I also agree that VAR was very consistent in last Nations Cup as compared to what we see in England every week. For this AFCON, I wouldn't say they've done that badly, but I would also agree that they may not have met the height of the last AFCON. And why that is happening, I can't place my finger on it. I would think that CAF will choose to have that high standard kept, especially when the last AFCON was watched worldwide, and commentators all over the world agreed that they are seeing more consistent decisions at the AFCON than even in England. But I wouldn't say they've done badly. I'll just say they've probably not reached the height of last AFCON.
Okay, let me get to wisdom all the way from Omoyana. Wisdom, looking at the Nations Cup, it boils down to the players on the pitch. We've seen group games all concluded. Have you seen any player that or players that you need to watch out for in the round of 16 and maybe subsequently to the final of this competition across the 24, at least across the 16 countries that are still left in the competition? Maybe one or two players that have their team have crashed out, but they seem to have made an impact on you.
Undoubtedly, while I must commend the players for the character they've shown, it's not easy. Of course, it's the dream of every player from a burgeoning stage that they would want to play at Africa's biggest stage possible, which is the Africa Cup of Nations. And while there are a couple of players who have been exceptional for their teams, I would rather stay with the teams that are already through to the round of 16. And they say charity begins at home. If I have to start with the Super Eagles of Nigeria, I must commend Ademola Lookman. His shortlisting in the best 11 after the conclusion of the Africa Cup of Nations group stage is a testament to his contribution, growing reputation, and decisive capacity in the team. 2 goals, 2 assists. It shows that he's quite a player to watch. He's shown that on different occasions. For his club, for his country, he's been consistent, except the fact that issues of transfer kind of reduced his impact during the FIFA World Cup qualifiers. Apart from him, we have to equally commend the likes of Alex Iwobi. He has come in for his criticism, hasn't he, for the national team on different occasions, especially when people look at him from the aspect of being a defensive midfielder, whereas for his craft, he's a winger, and that's what he does for Fulham. So he's been exceptional. And looking across the board to Egypt, Omar Mamouche and Mohamed Salah are both of the 2 players who are shouldering the responsibility of pushing Egypt to their 8th AFCON title. So both of them have played their part. I would love to equally mention a few other players who are showing capacity for their respective countries. You go to Morocco, Ayoub El Kabi, who has scored 2 overhead kick goals, which is incredible, isn't it? To have scored 2 of those incredible goals in the competition in just the group stage. I mean, you talk about Brahim Diaz scoring in their first 3 games of the group stage. That's another player to watch. Plays as a top club in Real Madrid. Maybe after this, he's going to stake a claim as a starting player for Real Madrid. That's left to be seen. If I have to go on to mention a couple of names here and there are a lot of them who are continuing to leave their mark on the sands of time as far as the 35th Africa Cup of Nations is concerned. That is what AFCON is all about.
Yeah, thank you very much, Wisdom, there for your incisive look at the players by China. Is there any player that has come to your mind apart from the ones mentioned by Wisdom?
No, while he was mentioning those players, I was like saying, hey, these are the same names I have in my mind too. But there's this Hannibal fellow at Tunisia who was once on the books of Man United. Yes, it's not like he has wowed the crowd by scoring so many goals, but I've been watching him and I like what I see. He's young apart from Hannibal of Tunisia, I will agree with all the other picks. For Senegal, Sadio Mane has not done badly, even though his age is going on the other side. For Egypt, Mamouche and Salah. For Nigeria, similar names. So I don't think I have a different name for what I have mentioned already.
Okay, just generally, gentlemen, let's get over the overview of the entire first round games. And of course, the competition itself. We've seen top dignitaries, FIFA president, we've seen, of course, the CAF president out there. Looking at the sixth stadia that is in use, have you been satisfied with the attendance at those stadia? I start with you, China.
I think we like to make an issue of attendance. It's the AFCON, and at this stage, we won't have so many full stadia. It's like when the Club World Cup started last year, there was this media thing about empty stadia in some games, but at some point we saw full stadia. It's just like an AFCON game played in Nigeria, in say Port Harcourt, or anywhere in Nigeria, and it's a game between, let me just say, Tanzania and Sudan. How many people are going to watch it? So the fact they're going to pick their games, We saw games that had full crowd. Let's think about Morocco, who have the host country. We saw games that had full stadium. We saw games that had half full stadium. We also saw games that had almost empty stadium. It happened. But from this round, we are going to see, like I said, we're going to see more competitive games. We are going to see more evenly matched teams. And we're going to see more fans attending the game. So for the stadia issue, I wouldn't make such a meal of it. It happens most times. Even like FIFA World Cup, not every game will have full capacity. Not every game. Okay. There will be some games that will have, either half full or it happens in football.
Okay, let me see. Do we still have Coach Dan by us? Dan Karpi, are you there? Okay, we seem to have lost Coach Dan, but I'll bring you in now, Mike. Looking at the football so far I've seen, have you seen a coaching impact, from the teams?
Definitely, I've seen a couple, right from the defending champion, talking about Emerson Faye of Cote d'Ivoire. You can see an end-to-end display between him and, of course, the coach for the Cameroonian side. In their in the second game, in their group game, there was more like a, end-to-end encounter. I saw some technical prowess exhibited by both coaches, talking about Emerson Faye and the coach of, the Indomitable Lion. And then again, the coach of the Super Eagles as well, though some are not 100% satisfied, but then you cannot satisfy everybody. I see that, he seems to have some technical prowess and tactical, skills as well, because of some of the changes that I've seen him, exhibit so far. Then again, the coach of Morocco is another coach that we need to also watch out, because he reads the game carefully and makes a substitution as when due. These are the 3 or 4 coaches so far so good have been able to spot out their technical and tactical prowess. Okay,
gentlemen, just for 1 minute from each of you on the issue of coaching contributions to the 35th edition of the African Cup of Nations. I get to you, Wisdom. Wisdom, are you seeing coaching prowess on showcase at the African Cup of Nations?
Thank you very much. First, let me acknowledge that for you to be a coach leading a team at the 35th edition of the Africa Cup of Nations, it means you have the capacity, you have the tactical nous, the prowess is there, the knowledge to lead a national team, because, it comes with enormous pressure for you to be at this big stage. It's our own FIFA World Cup, isn't it? It's our Champions League, and every nation would want their best leg to be, their best coaching crew to be out there. For this particular competition, I was impressed with the Egyptian coach, the fact that he played for Egypt and he's now leading the national team, Hossam Hassan, being there to midwife a win over a complete team. His team had a player sent off, Hani, in that game against South Africa, Ugo Bruce on the other side, being able to rally his troops, make a few defensive substitutions, ensuring they catch that 1 goal scored by Mohamed Salah. That's enterprising, isn't it? keeping that scoreline, going on to win again with a player short is fantastic. And if he's not a good coach, I mean, it's exciting to see people like late Stephen Keshi who did not just show their capacity on the pitch as a player, but now in management. So I'm impressed with Hossam Hassan. And Ugo Bruce is another man to look at. He's cut his teeth in terms of AFCON, won it with Cameroon in 2017, now leading South Africa, bringing resurgence here and there. And of course, there are teams to watch. I picked these two. I want to tilt away from Coach Eric Chow because he's made substitutions that impacted our game negatively. So instead of putting him on the spotlight, I beg to pass.
Well, okay, Chada, in the past, we've often had the comparison between local and foreign coaches. At the 35th edition of the African Cup of Nations, is this still an issue? The visibility of local and foreign coaches?
It will always be an issue. Always been an issue. In the 68 years of the AFCON, 13 local coaches have won it. And out of those 13, 2 have stood out. Charles Biafri of Ghana, who won it 3 times. I think 1963, 1965, and 1982. Won it 3 times. Then, of course, there is a Hassan Sheata of Egypt, who also won it 3 times. But for the foreign coaches, one has stood out completely, and that is Hervé Renard, who is the first and only coach to have won it for 2 countries, for Zambia and Cote d'Ivoire. But every time the AFCON is mentioned, the always be that thing is going to be won by a foreign coach or local coach. And I mean, I understand why this happens. Already, some people will be counting of the 16 teams left, how many are coached by local indigenous coaches, how many are coached by foreign coaches. We do this every year. But for me, it's not about whether you're indigenous or you're foreign, it's about what you have to offer to the team. Like Hossam Hassan was mentioned just now, he's doing quite a great job with his national team, and he's an indigenous coach. Even though Ugo Bruce was also mentioned as a coach that is doing well, it's difficult to mention any coach from South Africa as doing particularly well or his coaching acumen. And this is my own view. Because the South Africans have a very good football philosophy with most of their players coming from the home league, it makes the job easier. They play the same way. I mean, they are well coordinated. So I'm not taking anything from Ugo Bruce. I'm saying that the fact that he's coaching the South African team and have a good football philosophy and a good football foundation, it makes life easier for any coach that coaches South Africa. But having said that, he is also doing well. And I also agree that we can't mention the Nigerian coach Eric Shell because his decisions have been crazy. And I insist, anybody or most Nigerians can name a Super Eagles starting lineup. If you ask 50 Nigerians to mention who they think will start the next game, maybe 30 will get it right or 40 will get it right. So it's not about naming the lineup, it's about how do you manage the lineup, how do you create the right tactics, the right formation, how do you make your substitutions right, and that's where our coach gets it wrong. So I wouldn't mention him in this list. But again, whether it's foreign or it's indigenous, the coach is there for a job and it's to win the AFCON. So whoever wins it will know when that time comes.
Well, 13 African coaches are at the African Cup of Nations of the 24, meaning that there are more local coaches than the foreign coaches at the African Cup of Nations. But if you know that the coach of Morocco, Wahid, is in the at the Nations Cup, is local, and if you mentioned to me that he's the only coach, local coach that has gone to as far as semi-final of the World Cup, then you understand that local coaches are not to be underestimated when it comes to competitions of this nation. We'd like to take a break now, gentlemen. We'll come back very shortly. When we come back, we'll have a focus on the Nigeria versus Mozambique encounter coming up later by Monday, to be specific, after this weekend. That's the race to who qualifies for the quarterfinal stage of the competition. Will it be Mozambique getting their first round of 16 and maybe first round of 14 quarterfinals as well? Or will it be the Super Eagles of Nigeria, who a few years ago were champions, I think 4-time champions of the competition as well? All of these questions will be answered when we return from break. Stay with us. Welcome back. A Sports Extraordinary Weekend edition here on Atlantic Television Network. This weekend, our focus has been on the round of 16 of the African Cup of Nations. And beyond that, we'll take a trip to Europe to see the fate of Chelsea Football Club of England after sacking their coach, Maresca. But just before we get started on this second round of the program, Mike, Anthony Joshua had been in news in the course of the week. Of course, remember that crash that led to the death of two of his staff and friends, so to say. The driver involved in that accident has been charged to court. He's been granted bail, but that bail condition is yet to be fulfilled. We understand he will return back to court on the 20th of this month. At least for the first time, someone is being held responsible. We understand he didn't have a valid driver's license.
I think it's quite disappointing, and eyewitness, that were there when the incident took place actually blame that fatal accident to, wrongful overtaking, then overspeeding. So obviously it was the fault of the driver, who could not, of course, wheel, his engine properly. So I think he should face justice. And just like you said, the case has been deferred to the 20th of this month. So let's see what pans out from there.
Oh, China, quickly on the issue of Anthony Joshua, because he made the rounds through the week, and I'm very sure in the days ahead too, we'll be discussing about this one. But quickly, Anthony Joshua's personal phone has been reported missing from that incident. And it calls to question when there is an accident, scenes are overflooded by sympathizers and touts who, beyond going to revive the victim, steal their properties as well. Anthony Joshua's phone reported missing. China.
It's normal. When there's a scene, there are people who are going to rescue. There are those who are going to make videos for social media, and there are those who are going to steal, while the others are going to watch and see what's happening. So there are all kinds of people there. Not everybody goes to rescue. Some will steal. There are people that rob the dead, rob accident victims. So those are the ones that stole the phone. So for me, I'm not like I'm defending or saying it's a good thing. I'm saying it's normal in situations like that. And for Anthony Joshua at this point, he's not thinking about his lost phone. He's thinking about the fact that he's alive and mourning the fact that his two friends lost their lives. So that the fact that his phone was stolen or their phones were stolen will go to the list of Anthony Joshua's problems right now.
Okay, wisdom, something interesting, disturbing here. Why is it that we don't have response team that condone off such areas when this incident happened, at least within a reasonable time, good enough before these touts and thieves do operate?
While you were asking that question, I was just here smiling, and I don't think the response is different from what China said. It is normal, it is Nigeria, isn't it? It's a slap on our face, the infrastructure, our health response, the things that we get to experience as human beings on daily basis. I mean, look at it. That was Anthony Joshua. How about if it was an ordinary Nigerian? I mean, the spotlight on the incident would not have been as it is. The scrutiny, the pace which they have decided to charge the said suspect, the driver, to court, the swiftness and everything, it's because he's a global star in Anthony Joshua. But that shouldn't be the case, because it could have been another person, an ordinary Nigerian. It calls into question the systems existing in Nigeria. That shouldn't be the case. If such thing happens, there should be swift response teams that are willing to jump on the situation and rescue people, help them, probably administer first aid and help them survive. I mean, it should be a shame to Nigeria. I mean, it was reported in the UK. It's Anthony Joshua must have the story must have gone viral across the world. I don't know when we'll get things right in this country, but it's a sad one.
Emergency response is key on the highways, especially here in Nigeria, but we don't seem to get it every time this happens, like you mentioned there. It's common knowledge everywhere it happens, not to talk of when it involves superstar. But I think the government of the day must do something about emergency response when this incident happened. China, let's get to brass tack now. And the African Cup of Nations for round of 16 is here with us. The Super Eagles of Nigeria to take on their counterparts from Mozambique. And there's something interesting here about this fixture, and I want you to narrow in. Mozambique is qualifying for the round of 16 for the first time in their appearance at the African Cup of Nations. and they are looking, they are dreaming they could go to the quarterfinal. But they are up against the Super Eagles of Nigeria that has won the competition 4 times. Beyond that, are having to lick their wounds of not qualifying for the FIFA World Cup across Mexico, Canada, and the United States of America. How would this fixture be, looking at this history, or do I say this circumstance between the two teams?
Anyone is allowed to dream, so the Mozambicans can dream, but they must bring their dreams to reality on the pitch on Monday. The fact that it's their first time does not mean they cannot win. They can still go ahead to win. Nigeria is the more favored team, we all know that. But let's also remember that the last time that Nigeria won all 3 group stage games, we got knocked out to the first knockout stage. That was not like we coach the team to the AFCON. That was the 2021 AFCON. So listen, it's a knockout stage game. You don't even have to win to qualify. You can even play and go down penalty shootouts. So it's going to be with the right tactics. You can win against any side. So it's one thing to dream, the other to set that into reality on the pitch. So it's left for the Mozambican coach and the players determined to qualify. But of course, the odds favor Nigeria, except for our coach makes those kind of substitutions he makes sometime in the game. But the odds are very favor Nigeria for this one.
The odds favors Nigeria. It has won the competition 3 times and looking forward to a 4th win at the African Cup of Nations ongoing in Morocco. Wisdom. Let's look at how Nigeria could win Mozambique. Yes, we've talked about Mozambique winning their very first game in the history of Nations Cup against Gabon. But for Nigeria, we are used to winning matches at the African Cup of Nations. But looking at the players on showcase, let's start from the goalkeeping department. Stanley Nwabali, we've seen Francis Ozoho in the last game, what people believe was a second-string side. A lot of complaints have been around about Stanley Nwabali. Do you think he should return in the fixture against Mozambique?
Well, thank you very much. I would start by saying that I'm not the coach. If I'm Eric Chell, I don't envy him. It's a decision he has to make. Whether or not it favors Nigeria, the scrutiny and the spotlight will be on him. But you are correct when you said he's been under the spotlight for a while now for erratic decisions that he has made. What many people ask is, has it affected the result of these games? And the answer each time has been no. However, I still believe that the head coach needs to talk to his goalkeeper. You have to maintain composure. You have to be the one in charge of the back line. Some of the behaviors we see him display is a little irking for some of us as enthusiasts and fans. You can just imagine how that can affect the players on the pitch as well. So this is a high-stakes game. There's no margin for error. Like China mentioned, you have to win to reach the next round. If you do not win, then you're leaving that chance for your opponent to come in and win. So the decision to be made here is that we have to pick the right goalkeeper. I do not know if he's in the right state of mind or in the right clean bill of health to equally manage the post, but we need to put our best foot forward if we ever fancy a chance in the quarterfinals of this competition. Okay,
thank you very much. Mike is here. Mike, look at the defense line for the Super Eagles of Nigeria. A lot of people believe that Zaidu Sanusi is the weakest link for Nigeria in that defense line.
Definitely, I tend to agree with that. I think he is the only Achilles heel in that defense line. You saw how jittery he was in the first game, which for me wasn't that convincing enough. He found it very difficult to, of course, advance forward. And neither does he even has the stability, of course, stay on his ground, of course, to hold his man. So I think he is the weakling, more like the Achilles heel in that defense line. But the likes of Semilogo Ajayi, Kelvin Bassey, I think they have done a bit better, and of course, Bright Osaye Samuel.
Chana Chiro, let's look at the midfield for the Super Eagles of Nigeria. Captain Wilfred Didi seemed to be doing, a yeoman's job out there. I think we are seeing him score a goal for the first time for the Super Eagles of Nigeria. But a lot of people at the World Cup qualifier saw him like a weakling in that position. But leading the Super Eagles as captain proper now, after the exit of William Troost-Ekong, he seems to be combining that role well with the sweeper role in that midfield position as well.
He has done well. If you compare his play at the World Cup qualifying playoffs and the AFCON, he has really done better than at the World Cup qualifiers and the previous game for Super Eagles. Between he, Alex Iwobi, Frank Onyeka, they have done well in that midfield. So far, they've done well in that midfield. Hopefully, this continues for a long time. Maybe they can go all the way. But on the strength of the 3 games I've seen so far, the midfield has not done badly, Siri.
The midfield has not done badly, and I think I agree with China. They are so far so good. Let's look at the attack now. Everybody will have to bring something to this attack department. Everybody seems to believe that the Super Eagles of Nigeria has the most, fearsome attack at the African Cup of Nations in terms of names on paper. I'll start with you, Wisdom. Which name in the attack line for the Super Eagles of Nigeria will be easy to spot by an average football fan at the Moroccan games?
Undoubtedly, like off the top of my head, I don't expect any sweeping changes to the attack line. In fact, Coach Eric Chell knows that he has to pick his best forwards, and they are no other than the likes of Victor Osimhen, Ademola Lookman. I do not know who the third person will be, Samuel Chukwueze or Akko Adams, whichever player he chooses to put in that front 3, whichever formation he equally prefers, is a different kettle of fish. But these are regular names that we anticipate come Monday to play that forward role, and they have not played badly. I'd love to say that. They have scored the goals. Lookman, 4 goal contributions. Osimhen himself, 1 goal, 1 assist. Akko Adams has equally been there or thereabouts. Samuel Chukwueze providing a brace of assist in Nigeria's 3-1 win over the Cranes of Uganda. So they have been producing the goal and the assist. The goal contributions have been coming, which is what Nigerians are excited about. And we say long may that continue, because we are getting to the critical stage of the competition where the goals now have to start pouring in as consistent as it should be.
Okay, China, look at that attack line. Who should start? And, what formation do you think will suit the person most?
The job of deciding who should start is the job of the coach of the team.
Right.
But one player that every Nigerian knows must start is Victor Osimhen if he speaks. We all know Osimhen must start. And we all believe that with Osimhen starting, we should have an Akko Adams to support him. Because since Akko was discovered late in the World Cup qualifiers, he has done well for the team in terms of his energy, his passes, his field goals. He has done well, his support for the other strikers. So we all know that Osimhen should start, and we believe that Akko should also start to support Osimhen. Whoever else the coach brings in to start in the forward line, let him end it morning.
Okay.
Every Nigerian knows that we want to take Osimhen starting and Akko Adams also supporting him.
Let me interject there, China. And what do you think about Onyedika that has scored 2 goals, in his very first game at the Nations Cup?
He scored 2 goals in the final group game.
That's a big statement.
Hello?
That's a big statement.
Yes. Not bad. But again, it gives the coach a decision to make. The Onyedika starts in place of one of the other midfielders, or do you go back to what you're used to? So a lot of times in this final group game where you rest key players for others to start, you're doing it to rest key players to avoid injury and fatigue for the knockout games. But most times, those squad players you bring in play so well, and they give you a decision to make. So it's not for the coach. For us who watch from home on TV, we're asking ourselves, why Onyedika not play? Personally, having watched the Super Eagles play in the past 3 years, I would have thought that Onyedika should have been a starter in that national team, especially when I saw him in the last AFCON. But I've never been the coach of the team. So the coach decides. Now, with the 2 goals he scored, which is adding to his role in midfield, maybe he gets a chance. But some coaches will go for what they already know, what they're already used to. And that's their regular starting lineup, except, of course, in the case of injury or medical advice, he might go to what he knows already. Again, it's his choice to make. He earns the money. Let him make that choice.
Okay, Super Eagles of Nigeria coach Eric Shaw should make the choice of the players that will start, and of course see how they can send out Mozambique from the competition. But for the Mozambicans, they are dreaming big. They want to go to the, let's say, the quarterfinal stage of the competition. The president of the country has already doled out 11 million for each player if they are able to send out the Super Eagles of Nigeria. Yes, 11 million naira could be going to each of the Mozambican players if they go past it. And I think we've just been running out of time, and we might just go to our Sports Extraordinaire for this weekend. Gentlemen, which sports personality stand out for you this weekend? Just think. I'll give you a few seconds to think. Which sports personality stand out for you? I'll start with you, Mike. Your sports personality of the week?
I think for me, I'll go for no other person than Anthony Joshua. The reason is very simple. He was able to survive that ghastly motor accident.
China, your sports personality for this weekend, who do you think has impressed or have made an impression on you this weekend?
You know, the moment you said it, and we don't use that, I want you to say Anthony Joshua, we don't use him, and then you say Anthony Joshua.
All right.
So I'll go for Anthony Joshua. I mean, didn't just pop in my head.
Okay, Wisdom, your sports specialty for this weekend?
I don't want to be different. Let's do a consensus here. He fights in the square rope sport, and he fought for his life and won the battle of his life as well. So kudos to him.
Kudos. Anthony Joshua has just been discharged from hospital, and I think he's healed and getting hearty as well. So we wish to see a quickest of recovery for Anthony Joshua, mentally especially because of his two friends that passed on from that crash. And that will be it for this edition of Sports Extraordinary Weekend Edition. Many thanks to Wisdom and of course China Cheru for being part of the show. Very informative and incisive as well on all the issues we have discussed so far. Next weekend, definitely we'll be back with yet another bang. We're sorry we couldn't get at Maresca and his problems with Chelsea, but Chelsea has parted ways with their coach Maresca, and the under-21 coach will be in charge of their match between the Chelsea side and of course Manchester City. Promises to be a thriller this weekend. That will be it. Enjoy the rest of 2026.